You are about as good at catching a liar as you would be at guessing a coin flip, maybe a hair better. And you are absolutely, unshakably convinced that you're much better than that. That's the strange, humbling fact at the center of this whole subject. When researchers actually test people's ability to tell truth from lies, showing them recordings of people who are either lying or telling the truth, and asking them to judge which is which, the average person gets it right just a little above half the time. Barely better than chance. And it doesn't matter much who you are. Most people score in that same narrow band, just above the coin flip, no matter how confident they feel, no matter how much they pride themselves on reading people. Sit with how strange that gap is. In almost no other area of life do we hold a belief about our own abilities so confidently while being so completely wrong about it. You probably have a realistic sense of whether you're a good driver, a good cook, a good judge of a movie. But when it comes to detecting lies, nearly everyone rates themselves as good or very good. And nearly everyone is, in reality, hovering right at the level of random guessing. It's one of the largest gaps between confidence and competence that psychology has ever measured. We are not slightly overconfident here. We are massively, almost comically overconfident. An entire species walking around certain it possesses a skill it simply does not have. This is the psychology of lie detection, or really, the psychology of why we can't do it, while being totally sure we can. We walk around believing we have a sense for deception, a gut that tells us when someone's lying, a set of tells we can read. And the uncomfortable truth is that this sense is mostly an illusion. The tells don't work. The gut is wrong about as often as it's right. And our confidence in our own ability has almost nothing to do with our actual ability. But here's where this gets interesting, and where it stops being just an embarrassing limitation and becomes something almost beautiful. By the end of this, you're going to understand not just that you can't detect lies, but why you can't. And the reason is going to surprise you. Because your inability to catch liars is tangled up with one of the best things about being human. You're not bad at this because you're foolish. You're bad at it because you're built to trust. And that trust, the very thing that makes you so easy to fool, is the thing that makes love, friendship, and human society itself possible at all. So let's start with the myths, because you are carrying a head full of them, and they are all wrong. Ask almost anyone how to tell if someone is lying, and you'll get the same list. They avoid eye contact. They fidget. They touch their face, their nose, their mouth. They get nervous and shifty. They hesitate, or they over-explain. We treat these as reliable tells, the universal body language of deception, the things a liar can't help but do. This belief is everywhere, in folk wisdom, in how we raise children, in popular shows about reading people, in the training of some professionals. And it is, almost entirely, fiction. Decades of careful research have searched for reliable behavioral cues to lying. Some physical tell, some gesture, some signal that consistently gives a liar away. And the conclusion, again and again, is sobering. There is no reliable behavioral cue to deception. No gesture, no movement, no physical tell that lying people consistently do and truthful people consistently don't. Liars don't reliably avoid eye contact. In fact, some make more eye contact, precisely because they know that's what you're watching for. Liars don't reliably fidget. The whole catalog of tells you've been taught is, at best, weakly connected to deception, and at worst, completely useless. The signals are noise. You've been reading tea leaves and calling it insight. The reason no reliable tell exists is actually simple once you see it. Lying is not one single thing that produces one single physical signature. Different people lie differently. A nervous person and a calm person, a practiced liar and a clumsy one, a high-stakes lie and a tiny social one. they all look completely different. And on top of that, the variation between individuals is enormous. Some people naturally fidget and avoid eye contact when they're being perfectly honest. Some people are perfectly still and steady when they're lying through their teeth. So whatever tiny signal lying might produce gets completely buried under the massive, ordinary variation in how different humans behave. You can't find a needle that's the same color as the entire haystack. And before you assume that trained professionals must be the exception, that surely police officers, judges, customs agents, the people who do this for a living must be far better than the rest of us, the research says mostly no. When tested under controlled conditions, professionals whose jobs involve detecting deception often score about the same as ordinary people, just above chance. What they frequently do have is more confidence. Years on the job convince them they've developed a sharp instinct. But that confidence isn't matched by accuracy. In some studies, the main thing extra experience produced was extra certainty, not extra skill. Which is arguably worse, because a confident professional acting on a coin flip instinct can do real damage to the innocent people they wrongly read as guilty. If the experts who do this every day for decades can't reliably beat chance, that should permanently lower your confidence in your own untrained gut. The skill we're all so sure we have is one that even the specialists turn out not to possess. Even the machines built to do this, the lie detectors, the polygraphs, don't actually detect lies. They detect arousal, changes in heart rate, breathing, sweat. And arousal is not the same as lying. An innocent person, terrified of being wrongly accused, shows enormous arousal. A calm, practiced liar shows little. So even the technology we built to catch deception is really just measuring how stressed someone is, which, as we've seen, has no reliable connection to whether they're telling the truth. There is no machine and no human that can reliably read deception off a person in the moment. It simply cannot be done from the outside. So if the tells don't work, and we're barely better than chance, why are we all so convinced we're good at it? This is where it gets even more humbling. Your confidence in your lie detecting ability is almost completely disconnected from your actual ability. People who are sure they can spot a liar perform no better than people who admit they can't, and sometimes worse, because their confidence makes them commit hard-to-wrong judgments. The feeling of, I can tell when someone's lying, is just that, a feeling. It's generated by your brain handing you a verdict, with confidence attached, regardless of whether the verdict is right. And every time you happen to catch a lie, usually because you found out through other means, not because you read it off their face, you credit your amazing instincts. And every time you're fooled, you never find out, so you never learn you were wrong. Your sense of being a good lie detector is built on a feedback loop that only ever tells you about your successes and hides all your failures. Of course you feel like an expert. You've never been shown the evidence that you're not. And there's a deeper reason we cling so hard to the belief that we can spot a liar. It's comforting. The idea that deception leaves visible tells means the world is safer than it really is. It means you can protect yourself, that you'd see the betrayal coming, that you're not at the mercy of anyone willing to lie to your face. Giving up that belief means admitting something frightening, that you are, in fact, vulnerable. That a skilled liar could deceive you completely and you'd never know. That some of the people you trust right now could be lying to you and you have no way to tell. That's a deeply uncomfortable thing to accept. So we hold on to the fantasy of the lie detector inside us, not because the evidence supports it, but because the alternative, acknowledging our own blindness, feels too exposed. The illusion of being able to catch liars is a kind of security blanket against the scary truth that we mostly can't. Now, here's the part that flips this from a flaw into something profound. Why are humans built this way? so trusting, so easily fooled, so bad at the supposedly vital skill of detecting deception? You'd think evolution would have made us razor-sharp lie detectors, constantly on guard. Instead, it made us the opposite. It made us default to belief. This is the key to everything. Psychologists have found that human beings operate on what's sometimes called a truth default. We automatically assume that what people tell us is true, unless something specific forces us to doubt it. We don't approach each statement as a puzzle to verify. We just believe it by default and move on. This is why we're so easy to deceive. A lie sails right past us because we weren't checking in the first place. We were trusting because trusting is our resting state. And here's why that's not a flaw, why it might be the most important social adaptation we have. Think about what life would be like if you didn't default to trust. If you had to verify every single thing every person told you. If you treated every statement as a potential lie to be investigated. Communication would collapse. You couldn't function. Every conversation would become an interrogation. Every relationship, a standoff. Every simple exchange, a draining act of suspicion. Society runs on the fact that the overwhelming majority of what people tell us, the overwhelming majority of the time, is true. And because it's mostly true, defaulting to belief is actually the smart strategy. It lets us cooperate, coordinate, connect, and build things together at a speed that constant suspicion would make impossible. The truth default is not gullibility. It's the operating system of human cooperation. And you can feel how true this is by imagining the alternative for even a single day. Picture waking up and genuinely not believing anything anyone told you without proof. Your partner says they love you. Prove it. A coworker says the meeting moved to 3 o'clock. Verify it independently. A stranger gives you directions. Assume they're lying and check. A doctor tells you a diagnosis. Trust nothing. Confirm everything yourself. Within an hour, you'd be paralyzed, exhausted, isolated, unable to take a single step that depended on another person's word, which is to say, unable to take almost any step at all. Every cooperative act you perform, every transaction, every plan, every conversation, every relationship, rests on a foundation of taking people at their word. Trust isn't a nice add-on to human life. It's the load-bearing wall. Remove it, and the entire structure of social existence collapses into a heap of mutual suspicion. So the truth default that occasionally lets a liar through is not a bug evolution forgot to fix. It's the single adaptation that makes everything else possible. So your inability to catch liars is the flip side of your ability to trust. The same setting that makes you occasionally foolable is the setting that makes you able to have relationships at all. You can't have one without the other. A perfect lie detector would also be a person who could never simply take someone at their word, who would live in a permanent crouch of verification and doubt. That's not a superpower. That's a prison. Let me show you how this plays out, because the everyday picture matters. Take close relationships. We assume we'd surely know if our partner, our best friend, our family member were lying to us. We know them so well. But in fact, we are often worse at detecting lies from the people closest to us, not better. Because we trust them most, our truth default is set highest with them. So a lie from a loved one is the least likely to trip any alarm. The intimacy that should make us perceptive actually makes us more believing. We don't catch the lies of the people we love through some sharpened instinct. We usually find out the way everyone finds out, through evidence, through inconsistency, through the truth eventually surfacing on its own. Take parenting. Parents are convinced they can always tell when their kids are lying. Mostly, they can't. They catch the clumsy, obvious lies of small children and assume that skill scales up. But as kids get better at lying, parents' detection stays stuck at chance, all while their confidence remains sky high. The lies they catch through facts and slip-ups, not through reading their child's face, even though it feels like the latter. And here's a quietly important consequence. A parent who's certain they can always tell will wrongly accuse the honest child who happens to look nervous, and will believe the practiced child who's learned to look calm, teaching both of them exactly the wrong lesson about how honesty is rewarded. The overconfidence doesn't just fail to catch lies, it actively punishes truth and rewards smooth deception, in the very place children are learning what kind of person to become. Take work, negotiations, deals. We think we can size up whether someone across the table is being straight with us. We can't, not reliably, not from their manner. The deceptions that get caught in business get caught through due diligence, through checking the numbers, through verifying claims against reality, not through someone's brilliant read of a handshake or a glance. The whole world of serious dealing has learned, the hard way, to trust verification over intuition, because intuition about honesty simply doesn't work. The most experienced negotiators and investors are often the least likely to rely on a gut read of the person across the table, precisely because they've been burned enough times to know their gut is unreliable. And the most reliable ones build their decisions on documents, references, and checkable facts instead. Every one of these is the same lesson. We catch lies through evidence and over time, almost never through reading a person in the moment. Which brings us to the twist, and it reframes the entire thing. You are not bad at detecting lies because you're naive or unobservant or a poor judge of character. You are bad at it because you are built to trust. And that trust, the exact thing that makes you foolable, is the foundation of everything good about being a social creature. Your gullibility and your capacity for connection are the same trait viewed from two angles. The truth default that lets the occasional liar slip past you is the same truth default that lets you love, cooperate, believe, and build a life alongside other people without exhausting suspicion. You were never supposed to be a lie detector. You were built to be a truster, because trusting, on balance, across a whole life, wins. And that leads to a genuinely freeing conclusion. Since you cannot reliably detect lies in the moment, since no one can, not you, not the experts, not the machines, you can finally stop trying. You can put down the exhausting, useless project of reading people's faces for deception, and stop tormenting yourself for being fooled. Because being fooled occasionally is not a personal failure. It's the unavoidable cost of being a person who can trust at all. Everyone who has ever loved anyone has been lied to and didn't catch it, because catching it isn't a thing humans can do. The occasional deception is simply the tax you pay for the immense gift of being able to take people at their word. And there's a specific kind of self-forgiveness available here that a lot of people desperately need. If you've ever been badly deceived, cheated on, betrayed, conned, lied to by someone you trusted completely, you may have spent a long time blaming yourself. How did I not see it? How could I be so stupid? The signs must have been there. But now you know the truth. The signs almost certainly were not readable. Because deception isn't readable, not by you, not by anyone. You weren't stupid. You weren't naive. You were doing the thing humans are built to do, trusting someone who hadn't yet given you a reason not to. The failure was not in your perception, it was in their character. The person who lied to you exploited the very trust that makes you capable of love. And being exploited for your capacity to trust is not a flaw in you. It's a wound inflicted by them. You can stop interrogating your own judgment for missing what was never visible in the first place. So what do you actually do with this? The first thing is to stop trusting your lie radar because you don't have one. That feeling of, I can tell they're lying, is not a reliable signal. It's a confident guess. And it's wrong about as often as it's right. So stop convicting people on it. Stop ruining relationships over a gut feeling that has no better than coin flip accuracy. And especially, stop using the body language myths. The eye contact, the fidgeting, the touched nose. Because those don't just fail to help, they actively mislead you, pointing you at the nervous and the honest, while the calm liar walks free. Your intuition about who's lying deserves far less trust than you've been giving it. The second thing is to rely on what actually works: evidence, consistency, and time. Since you can't read deception off a person, judge their honesty the only way that works, by whether their words match the facts, whether their story holds together and stays consistent over time, whether their actions line up with their claims. Lies get exposed by reality, eventually, because a lie has to fight against a world that doesn't cooperate with it. Truth is consistent with everything. A lie is consistent only with itself. So for anything that matters, don't try to read the person, check the claim. Verify. Look for the inconsistency over time. That's where lies actually break, not on someone's face in the moment. There's a subtle skill inside this worth knowing. Liars are best caught not by watching them, but by knowing more than they think you know. When you already have a piece of evidence and let someone talk before revealing it, a lie will eventually collide with that evidence. And that collision, that contradiction with a known fact, is far more reliable than any read of their behavior. This is why the strongest approach to uncovering deception is patience and information, not scrutiny of body language. You don't outstare a liar, you outknow them. You let the lie keep talking until it bumps into something solid that it can't be reconciled with. So if something genuinely matters, gather the facts, hold your knowledge close, and let consistency, or the lack of it, reveal itself over time. The truth has the enormous advantage of matching reality everywhere you check. A lie only has to be checked in enough places before the cracks appear. And the third thing, maybe the most important, is to not let this turn you into a paranoid person. Knowing you can't detect lies might tempt you toward universal suspicion. Trust no one, verify everything, assume the worst. Don't. That's the prison we talked about, and it costs far more than it saves. The math of trust is clear. Yes, defaulting to trust means you'll occasionally be deceived. But constant suspicion means poisoning every relationship, exhausting yourself, and pushing away the connection that makes life worth living. To avoid a cost that, for most people, is rare. The wise position is not zero trust and not blind trust, but earned trust. Default to believing people. Stay open to evidence that you shouldn't. Verify the things that genuinely matter. And accept that you will sometimes be fooled, because that acceptance is the price of a life rich with the people you can take at their word. Because here is the truth underneath all of it. We are not the sharp-eyed lie detectors we imagine ourselves to be. We are trusters, deep down, built to believe each other. And that trust is not our weakness, it's our genius. It's what lets us cooperate with strangers, build with each other, love without a constant background of doubt. Yes, it leaves us foolable. Yes, you will be lied to, and you won't always catch it. But the alternative, a mind that trusted no one and verified everything, would be a far poorer way to live. Your trust is the price of admission to human connection, and it is worth every cent, even counting the lies. So be wise, verify what matters, and then go on trusting people anyway. It's the most human thing you do. And notice what kind of person this makes you, if you can hold it. Not a sucker and not a cynic, but something better than either. Someone who chooses trust with their eyes open. The cynic protects themselves from being fooled by refusing to trust anyone, and pays for that safety with a small, suspicious, lonely life. The naive person trusts everyone blindly and gets hurt again and again without ever learning. But the wise truster does something harder and braver than both. They understand fully that they can be deceived, that they have no magic radar, that trusting means accepting real risk. And they choose to trust anyway, because they've decided that a life rich with connection is worth the occasional betrayal. That's not weakness, that's courage. It takes far more strength to keep trusting in a world where you know you can be fooled than to wall yourself off out of fear. So be the wise truster. Keep your eyes open, verify what truly matters, and then extend your trust freely, knowing exactly what it costs and deciding it's worth it. Because it is. Now here's something to carry into the next one. We've just seen that humans are built to believe each other, to default to trust. But there's an even stranger flip side to how we're wired around honesty. Not only do we believe others easily, we have a powerful, almost irresistible compulsion to be honest ourselves, to disclose, to confess, to tell the truth about our inner lives. And it comes out in the oddest place of all, with total strangers. People will tell a complete stranger on a train, a bartender, a seatmate on a plane, things they have never told their closest friends or family. There's something about a stranger that unlocks our deepest secrets, something that makes the truth pour out of us precisely to the people we'll never see again. Why people confess their secrets to total strangers is the next thing we need to talk about. For now, I want one honest answer. Who in your life are you absolutely sure you can read? Sure you'd know if they ever lied to you? And have you ever been completely, blindly wrong about a lie, only to find out much later through something that had nothing to do with your instincts? Tell me, because almost all of us think we're the exception to this, the rare person who really can tell, and almost none of us are. Which is exactly why the lie that fools you will be the one you were most certain you'd have caught.